Chinese Communist Party, the reign of terror as it is called, the Red Dragon, has conquered in order to kill. Their organs cut out of their bodies while alive. The transplant surgery is the murder with very little anesthetic, and this is the only regime on earth that is doing this on a large scale, state mandated, state endorsed, and state institutionalized for the last 20 years.
Hey guys, before we begin this interview, a shout out to this video's sponsor, Noble Bitcoin. It's time to think outside the box for ways to protect and grow your hard-earned money. Headlines like these are just the tip of the iceberg because the whole world is now on the Titanic. Horror in Ghana as a third of banks shutter, sparking unprecedented bank run. You think it can't happen here? Then why do so many experts believe that a U.S. economic crisis is imminent? Protect your life savings with a Bitcoin IRA from Noble Bitcoin. What you might not know is that you can now put Bitcoin into an IRA or 401k rollover, which means you'll get all the advantages that go along with it, including tax breaks. And although cryptocurrencies are not for everyone, it may be worth dipping your foot in the pool because the growth potential is astronomical. Bitcoin is gaining traction with established financial institutions like banks, investment companies, and even governments around the world. So maybe it's time to examine the opportunity in Bitcoin. No agenda, no funny business, just a grown-up adult discussion with Noble Bitcoin about your options. So give them a call, 877-646-5347, or click the link below this video to get more information. Hey friends, Sean from SGT Report here. Thank you so very much for tuning in. I've got goosebumps actually right now as I'm recording this. I'm bringing back on a guest who we last spoke to about a year ago. His name is Mitchell Gerber, and he's moving heaven and earth to try to expose what's going on in China. And it's the dark, sinister practice of organ harvesting. And folks, this isn't just organ harvesting of dead folks or people that were deceased in auto accidents or other accidents. This is the organ harvesting of live prisoners. These people are being killed by the thousands. And if you want to understand the heavy hand of China and the Communist Party, look no further than the heavy hand of the tyranny coming down on the protesters in Hong Kong. Disarmed people being beaten senselessly on escalators and in subway cars. Friends, what's coming for Hong Kong and for the rest of the world should this communist dictatorship take hold, like so many of the Marxist leftists would like to see, is seriously hell on earth. Mitchell Gerber joins me right now. How are you, Mitch?
I'm good. I'm in communist Vietnam, so I'm on the front lines right now, right next to the border of China in Hanoi, so I'm on a VPN, but it's great to be on your show, Sean. Once again, hello everybody, and thanks for allowing me to share this with you.
Yeah, it's great to have you back. You sent me a couple of things. Let me just play a quick clip, and then I know you have a quote you wanted to share. I don't know what it is. You told me you have a special quote to share. I want to play this clip. It's from the Coalition Roundtable. It was on YouTube. You sent me this clip, and it really sets the stage so people understand what I just said isn't hyperbole. It's not conjecture. There's 60 to 100,000 transplants per year going on in China. It's an $8 to $9 billion per year business, a business of killing people and harvesting their organs.
So are these live organ harvests?
Yeah, always.
Yeah.
I mean, organ transplantation in China is different from everywhere else in the world because everywhere else in the world, you're dealing either with live donors who, after the donation, are still alive, brain-dead donors who are obviously brain-dead after the transplants as well. In China, you get people killed through the organ extraction, and that's only in China.
I'll pause it there. That's only in China. It really is the stuff that horror movies are made of. Mitchell?
Yes, there's an old quote that many regimes in history have killed in order to conquer. The Chinese Communist Party, the reign of terror as it is called, the Red Dragon, has conquered in order to kill. It has controlled China for the last 50 years. Under its reign, between 60 and 80 million people, folks, have been murdered. And now, only in China, in this world today, there's many places in the world, yes, there are organ harvestings existing, but nothing like what is going on in China, where there is a state-mandated, unprecedented, full force scale, under guard and tackle by the Chinese and watched by the Chinese military, sending hundreds and thousands of innocent Falun Gong practitioners, and I'll get in a minute, Sean, if I may, what Falun Gong is all about. Uyghur Muslims, Tibetans, and house Christians in sealed cattle car freight containers sent to state-mandated hospitals, their organs cut out of their bodies while alive. The transplant surgery is the murder with very little anesthetic. Last time on your show, I said there was no anesthetic, but Dr. Invatotti, who committed one of the forced organ harvesting, and he actually fled China. He sat with me at the tribunal, International Tribunal of Natural Justice court in London, sharing the testimony that there's very little anesthetic given to these unwilling donors. Donors are unwilling. The organs extracted just to hold them down, because it would take 4 people to hold them down. So the anesthesia holds them down so they can remove the fresh organs, turning the doctors into murderers, burning the bodies once the organs are forcefully removed to conceal the evidence, and then sold for massive amounts of profit that equal up into the billions of dollars in China. And this is the only regime on earth that is doing this on a large scale, state mandated, state endorsed, and state institutionalized for the last 20 years, particularly to the group, the spiritual group, namely the Falun Gong.
We're not hearing anything about this from the mainstream media, the Mockingbird mainstream media in the United States or in the UK or anywhere else in the world. Nobody's talking about this. Meanwhile, the situation is getting worse. You mentioned these hospitals that are doing this. These are mandated hospitals in China, folks. 800 hospitals registered with the Chinese Communist government to do these abominations. And there's a great article by Matt Robertson called A Hospital Built for Murder, and it's about the Tianjin Hospital. Do you want to talk a little bit about this? It's so diabolical, I don't think the average listener can process this stuff, Mitchell.
Yes, Matthew Robinson was given an award for the exceptional journalism he did to investigate this, as well as David Mattis and David Kilgore, the 2 Canadian lawyers. David Kilgore actually sat with me with Ethan Gutmann, who is a nominee of the Nobel Peace Prize of 2018, in London, sharing about how they took about 8 years, Ethan Gutmann, 8 years of investigation to expose this, to confirm the allegations. David Kilgore and David Mattis, with Matthew Robinson, since 2006, have come out with the allegations, confirmed at least 52 pieces of evidence. And Tianjin was a masterpiece work done by Matthew Robinson, exposing the step-by-step intricate details of the evidence to confirm the allegations are true. And just to add to that point, and I'm so glad that you brought up that his article for which he received an award. People should read it for sure. But just recently, the final judgment from the China Tribunal, an independent tribunal into forced organ harvesting from prisoners of conscience in China, they concluded that from their conclusions that forced organ harvesting is such a diabolical new form of evil that the International People's Tribunal exposed that this wicked mass crime and killing is unmatched over the last century, since the Holocaust. And forced organ harvesting has been committed for years throughout China on a significant scale, and that the Falun Gong practitioners, particularly this innocent spiritual movement that became the largest spiritual movement in China, was targeted and is probably the main source of organ supply. They went on to say that the crimes against humanity unanimously judged to be proven beyond a reasonable doubt included murder, extermination, the urgent call to action to stop China's murderous transplantation industry. They even went on to show that the evidence, 52 pieces of evidence, I mean, it's unbelievable, that there was just an extraordinarily short waiting times promised by the People's Republic of China's doctors and hospitals for organs to be available for transplantation, that there was torture of Falun Gong practitioners and others, Uyghur Muslims, Tibetan Buddhists, that there was accumulated numerical evidence, excluding spurious Chinese communist data, which indicated the number of transplant operations performed and the impossibility of there being anything like sufficient eligible donors under the recently formed Chinese communist regime's voluntary donor scheme for that number of transplant operations. They also went on to say, just like Matthew Robinson exposed, that there was a massive infrastructure development through Tianjin Hospital being the first, and then 800 to at least 1,400 hospitals and more coming out each and every day being exposed through the evidence, that there was a massive infrastructure development of facilities and medical personnel for organ transplant operations, often started before any voluntary donor system was even planned, that there was direct and indirect evidence of forced organ harvesting. And the Chinese tribunal got media, but still the mockingbird media didn't even touch it, especially NBC, ABC, and MSNBC, that actually just recently came out with hit pieces against the Falun Gong and the Epoch Times. I'm not sure you saw this.
No, I didn't see that, but it doesn't surprise me at all because those same Mockingbird CIA rags will do hit pieces on truth tellers who are blowing the whistle on the dangers of vaccines, or on what happened with World Trade Center 7 on 9/11, or any number of other issues like the perversion of the deep state and its penchant for pedophilia, with people running intelligence operations like Jeffrey Epstein and his pedophile island, Little St. James and Greater St. James. None of that is ever covered in detail by the Mockingbird horror media, which is why we in the truth media exist, and it's exactly why Google is trying so hard to silence us, Mitchell. Let me just read this for folks. This is from the book The Slaughter by Ethan Gutman. This is from just 2014, folks. This is a relatively fresh book. The synopsis here over on Amazon is this: The Slaughter, the inside story of China's organ transplant business and its macabre connection with internment camps and killing fields for arrested dissidents, especially the adherents of Falun Gong. Mass murder is alive and well. Folks, we've covered this before. Those movies, those hostile movies, if you haven't seen them, you probably don't want to see them. But those are actually documentaries. They're presented as fiction, but this stuff is really going on around the world, and it's horrific. Now, according to this book, mass murder is alive and well. That is the stark conclusion of this comprehensive investigation into the Chinese state's secret program to get rid of political dissidents while profiting from the sale of their organs, in many cases to Western recipients. Based on interviews with top-ranking police officials and Chinese doctors who have killed prisoners on the operating table, veteran China analyst Ethan Gutman has produced a riveting insider's account, culminating in a death toll that will shock the world. And here's the ultimate question, Mitchell. Why would the Chinese leadership encourage such a dangerous perversion of their medical system?
Very great question. Well, to understand, Sean and everybody, how organ harvesting could happen in China, it's crucial to understand that there is no limit to how far the CCP, which is the Chinese Communist Party, will go to wipe out something or someone. So, Sean, when the persecution started in July 1999, the Chinese regime called Falun Gong the biggest threat to national security since Tiananmen Square 10 years before. And today, they are more terrified than ever. You see, when Falun Gong, which is a spiritual movement, it's an ancient mind and body practice. And it has 5 exercises and meditation and a belief system of being truthful, compassionate, and tolerant. When this particular ancient discipline, this spiritual movement, Chinese type of modality, came into being and was introduced into the general public of China, it became the life force of at least 100 million people, 10% of the population, 1 out of every 12 Chinese national citizens, from the highest class to the lowest class. And it took China by storm. And the Chinese government, because they control the military, they control the secret police, they control the hospitals, but there's no private property, there's no private enterprise. They documented how healthy the Falun Gong exercises and the state of being was uplifting the people of China. And it just showed the psychological and the healthy benefits of this practice. So they created, the communist regime became very threatened by the practice because it was too popular to be controlled. And the former president, Jiang Zemin, out of hatred and jealousy that he couldn't control the minds of and the hearts of the people, and it was over. This Falun Gong practice was overshadowing his legacy, ban the practice, but not only ban the practice, use the medical associations, the military, the secret police, and all the hospitals turned doctors into murderers to profit off the organs because they had evaluated the amount of benefits and incredible health and healing efficacy of the Falun Gong exercises, which is free to practice all over the world. I've practiced it as an avid martial artist and yoga enthusiast around the world in my lifetime. I'm 39 years right now, and I've been practicing these kind of modalities. And I've never experienced such a healthy practice as Falun Gong and what I've experienced. So when they got the evidence, the medical evidence and the medical research, they obviously thought, well, we can ban this practice and we can make a lot of money off this. So to answer the question, this is a purposeful final solution intent to create a massive multi-billion-dollar forced organ harvesting business to kill Falun Gong practitioners for their organs and sell them and make a fortune.
I want to ask you something. I need your opinion on something because I want to try to tie this into the world in which we live here in the United States today. In your opinion, Mitchell, is Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama, are they constitutionalists that would fight and die for the Constitution and Bill of Rights? Or in your opinion, are they more Marxists with communist leanings?
Marxist and communist leaning. They are very much for the communist regime. If anything, Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton, if they would have been more in power, America would have turned into the communist regime. The globalist plan is to use Rockefeller and the globalists. They wanted to use the communist ideology, the communist system under Mao, under the Chinese Communist Party, to take over America, to collapse the republic, to destroy the Constitution, to destroy the Second Amendment, to destroy all the amendments, all the constitutional values, all the laws, the republic as we know it, and install the communist system. So yes, Marxism fully backed by Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama. And that is why I'm saying to you right now that Trump, love him or leave him, doesn't matter. It's up to, I don't care what you believe in. It's up to you. You are free to believe. But he stands against communism. He stands against socialism, which is the beginning of communism. That's what most people don't understand, especially the liberal university students in America. They don't understand that socialism is the spider that basically the Hansel and Gretel effect. Come here, my little children. Come into my gingerbread house, and I'll give you free stuff. I'll give you free this. I'll give you free that. But your soul, your spirit, your body, your mind are owned by me. And if you do anything to go against me, I will kill you. But I will kill you softly. And that is what is going on in China, and that is what's going on in Hong Kong, as you see with the social credit score, the implementation of trying to remove Hong Kong dissidents back to China in order to extradite them. And the Hong Kongese are such courageous individuals for stopping this. The Falun Gong, the Uyghur Muslims, the Tibetans, the House Christians have stood up against this monster. And the Patriot movement in America are standing up against the radical leftists, Antifa, terrorists.
That's precisely right. That's why I wanted to ask you that question. Let me tie this together for our listeners. This is why what's going on in China is so absolutely critical, and people need to understand the evil against which we are all standing, those of us who are speaking truth, those of us who stand for liberty, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights. All right, guys, I brought up Barry Soetoro, Barack Hussein Obama, and Hillary Clinton precisely because Barack Hussein Obama had a relationship over the years when he lived in Chicago with Bill Ayers. Well, who was Bill Ayers? William Charles Ayers is a former leader of the Weather Underground. And when he was part of the Weather Underground, an FBI infiltrator got in and was part of these meetings in which the Weather Underground stated that their goal was to infiltrate the United States government. They essentially did that with Barry Soetoro eventually, infiltrate the United States government and turn it into a communist nation. And in their own words, those who couldn't be re-educated to the new ways of thinking, the communist ways of thinking, would have to go to internment camps to be re-educated. And those that couldn't be re-educated would have to be slaughtered, would have to be murdered. And by their own estimates, it was going to be 20 to 30 million Americans. Do you think for 1 minute in today's world, those wouldn't be organ harvested people put to death for their organs, put to death either way. My point is this: the evil of communism cannot be overstated. These brainwashed fools in the universities have absolutely no clue how closely they're dancing with the devil as they promote these Marxist communist ideologies, Mitchell.
Absolutely. And there's a great publication for those who are avid Chinese readers or love to read about the communist regime and how evil communism is. It's called The 9 Commentaries on the Communist Party. You can Google it. It's a free publication. www.9commentaries.com. It's 9 publications. It's a 9-series publication, and it will blow your mind. It will destroy the Marxist Communist Manifesto, which is so manipulative and so deceptive, because that is what communism is. It's deceptive, it's an evil reign of terror, and it is an imposter to world freedom and normal way of thinking. And that is our greatest enemy. Even in the book of Revelations, it speaks of the red dragon. So yes, what you said, Sean, is 100% right, and that's why, love him or leave him. I don't, I know people who are listening to your podcast might disagree, but Trump is a godsend, is a godsend to the republic, because if Hillary Clinton got into power, or one of these democratic socialists get into power that you've seen in the presidential debate, who I wouldn't let lead me across the street, the American civilization, ladies and gentlemen, as we know it, Sean, is done for, because the communist specter will take over and destroy our land, destroy our freedom, destroy what the founding fathers, and I'm grateful to be a 20-year American citizen, originally from South Africa, but an American citizen, thank God, before now coming to Vietnam to work on more exposing the China communist regime. But I'm grateful that Trump is in power and will stay in power. That's why it's so important to keep him in for 2020, actually.
Yeah, well, I agree. And what I just want people to understand is how fragile this experiment is, having a constitution and a Bill of Rights, and how fragile our liberties are and how quickly they can be snatched away. We have, I believe it was Beto O'Rourke, one of these presidential Democratic Socialist candidates, saying that they would seize the guns. The plan would be to come after the guns, to get people to have to turn them in for money. That would be the plan if elected. And if they come for the guns, what's to stop them from coming for you or your children? What's to stop them from taking all of our liberties? Look, our power went out the other night in our house. We had a storm come through. The power was out for 12 hours. Without energy, we're broke. We're serfs. We live in poverty. That's the Agenda 2030 policies. That's what Hillary would have fast-tracked, turning us all into serfs. When the power goes out, look what's going on in the Bahamas with these storms. How quickly your life can go from living a peaceful, happy life to hell on earth. That's how quickly the light can be switched from light to dark with communism, folks. Mitchell, can you tell people about your website too? I forgot to mention that early on. I think I did. Is it stoporganharvesting.org?
That's it, yes. And there's another one where people can really look into the persecution of the Falun Gong and the forced organ harvesting, which is endtransplantabuse.org, and they can read the tribunal, the final judgment that was delivered by the tribunal. And I just want to mention also, Sean, that I sat down in London with the investigators, David Kilgore, who is the former Secretary of State to the Asian Affairs of the Canadian Parliament, the Crown Prosecutor, Ethan Gutman, who you just mentioned, and Chinese Dr. Enver Tohti, who bared witness and did a forced organ harvesting, and he bared witness and shared the testimony. And I did this with them in London. And this is definitely, guys, confirmed. People also mention Israel, that they're doing forced organ harvesting. No, they are not. Actually, organ harvesting, the first country in the world that implemented an organ harvesting transplantation ban, organ transplantation ban in 2008 was Israel. Then followed Taiwan, then Italy, and then Spain. So these are the only 4 countries that have banned organ tourism in their from China after learning about the forced organ harvesting. So it's not Israel. Now you have the Zionist movement, which is endangering the Jewish state. That's a whole other story altogether. And you have found rabbis and other people in this world, in Staten Island and New York, that have harvested organs. In Southeast Asia, I'm in Vietnam right now, and I can tell you, under communist Vietnam, you are not free, and there's a lot of child trafficking, sex trafficking, and organ harvesting as well going on across the border in China, just right across the border. But Israel definitely outlawed organ tourism after knowing about forced organ harvesting and their medical associations. But stop organ harvesting, yes, Sean. There's also another one for people who are still doubting that this is going on. Doctors Against Forced Organ Harvesting, DAFOH.org is the official website there. So please take a look.
Let me ask you this. Do you want to talk a little bit about organ tourism, in that I know that people, and this blows my mind because you're actually taking part, you've got blood on your hands if you go to China to get a liver on short notice, folks. That's coming from one of these formerly alive prisoners. Okay, these people are being murdered so you can get a liver, a lung, a heart. Really, really deep, 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 spiritually troubling stuff. So I want people to understand, is there a danger in your view, Mitchell, that some of those organs are coming here? And if you go to a place like, for instance, the Mayo Clinic or another hospital to get a transplant, maybe the organs are coming from a Chinese dissident or prisoner?
Absolutely. But since 1999, the Laogao system, which is the labor camp system in China, skyrocketed. I mean, you would see hospitals, labor camps, detention centers. I mean, they were building. The Chinese Communist regime were building with all because of the consumer market in America. I mean, you got the entire consumer market in America and Europe founded off the institutionalized slavery system of mainland China. So with that, I mean, since 2004, I mean, $900 billion of investment has been pouring into China. China has used, the communist regime in China that controls China has used at least 1/4 of China's gross domestic profit to eradicate the Falun Gong and to kill them for their organs on a specified date. Basically, as David Kilgore was sharing, picking a lobster out of a tank, cutting it open and just selling it on a specified date, fresh organs. And now they want to do a global, Enver Tohti, the Chinese surgeon who was sitting with us as well, he was talking about how China wants to do organ globalism, basically, flying planes in and out of China on a specified date. And yes, once this occurred, the organ tourism skyrocketed in America to 30 to 40%, and absolutely, the medical associations got on board with this. The Transplantation Society got on board with this. Huang Jiefu, who was a liver transplant surgeon and one of the ministers of medicine in China, he sits on the board of the World Health Organization. And when David Kilgore and David Mattis, the investigators went to give the evidence to the World Health Organization, which is one of the arms or the main arm of the United Nations, they refuted the claims. They wouldn't look at it because they got brainwashed and deceived by Huang Jiefu, a liver transplant surgeon who was the minister of medicine in China, who oversaw and did organ transplant, forced organ harvesting of Falun Gong practitioners. You have Bo Xilai, who was one of the head guys of the Politburo members of the communist regime, sitting with Jiang Zemin, the former president of China, who was using the Falun Gong bodies and selling them to the German fellow who created the body exhibitions that are touring still. That made $50 million off the Body World exhibitions where you have these cadavers.
The plasticized bodies. I was going to bring that up.
Yes.
Those are, many of those are Falun Gong practitioners, huh?
Many of them. And the Vatican is also complicit. They were in bed with the communist regime as well. They had the bishop deny the claim that this was going on, a very high-ranking bishop. When Wendy Rogers, a professor in clinical psychology, confronted with David Kilgore and David Mattis, the investigators, and saying, look, why are you sitting down with a transplant tourist seminar with the Chinese communist regime? What are you guys doing? So they are complicit in this as well as the child trafficking and sex trafficking. You've heard a lot about the Vatican. That their crimes are horrendous, especially with child trafficking and pedophilia. So yeah, this is deep. This is very, very deep. But yeah.
All right. Let me ask you this, and We're going to redirect people to the websites, and you can tell us if there's any. I mean, I'm not sure what our listeners can do to prevent this. I mean, we can't even prevent China from stealing brands, and we can't prevent them from making counterfeit Rolex watches, and they steal intellectual property, and they steal physical property of people's bodies. So I don't know how we can prevent this, but I wanted to ask you, the Chinese surgeon that I guess escaped and admitted to admitted to this stuff. Was he forced to do that? I mean, is this pretty much when you are a communist in China, you become a surgeon and you find yourself at one of these hospitals? How many of them are doing it because it's profitable, and how many of them are doing it because it's their job and they're forced to do it?
Yeah, he was forced to do it. He was actually told by his superior that he needed to gather his team and meet them the next morning. So he went. He heard a shot, and they brought the body in. The man was still alive, and told him, "Listen, the fresher the organ, the better the money." So he had to remove a couple of organs. I don't remember what he removed exactly. It's in the testimony online. I sent you the link, Sean. I would love your listeners to watch it. But he gave a serious account. If you just Google his name, Enver, E-N-V-E-R, Enver Tohti, T-O-T-I, Chinese surgeon, you can see a lot of his testimony in the Scottish Embassy Parliament, in the London Parliament, in the US. He was forced. But there was another surgeon's wife who came to America, and she went through under the alias Annie, said that her husband removed the corneas of over 2,000 Falun Gong practitioners. And she said that his pain and suffering, he would wake up with nightmares as a doctor, because the communist regime is turning their doctors into murderers, forcing them to do this for massive amounts of money. And she explained how he would wake up with nightmares and saying it was, I would suffer less if they were dead, but they were actual alive, living people, because the fresher the organs, the better the money involved. So what people can do, Sean, and I truly hope that they can go to the websites, they can sign a petition. I know a petition doesn't do much, but the pen is mightier than the sword, and it's almost like signing a will or signing a property banknote. If you sign, it means you're giving your support. You're standing on the side of rightness and of goodness, and that is very important in life. That in the eyes of God, in the eyes of the heavens, that is very, very important for someone to sign their name in support of stopping this evil, in support of the innocent Falun Gong practitioners and the Uyghur Muslims that have been killed in such horrendous ways, a new form of evil that we have yet to experience and understand, and will shock us when we do, when it comes alive on the mainstream media. So please, everybody, visit the websites, visit stoporganharvesting.org, Doctors Against Forced Organ Harvesting, which is DAFOH.org, endtransplantabuse.org. Read the Kilgore Mattis report. It's free of charge. Kilgour Mattis, M-A-T-A-S, a report. And look at go on YouTube and type in Falun Gong organ harvesting, and you'll find everything you want to know. You'll find the propaganda, and you'll find the truth, just like the mainstream deep state media. And you'll find the SGT report. And you know what the truth is. You know, Sean, you know the SGT report are the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you, God. And you know what the fake news media is, to try and destroy the truth. So I leave it up to you.
Yeah, thank you for that, Mitchell. I really appreciate that. That was nice of you to say. And I'm going to let people know that you referred to Mattis and Kilgore, and that's David Mattis and David Kilgore, and they wrote a book called Bloody Harvest, and you guys can go seek that out. But again, to Mitchell's point, the Mockingbird mainstream media, which I would include at this point, Amazon, owned by Jeff Bezos, who bought up the Washington Post, Bezos blog. Amazon doesn't much care for anybody reading Bloody Harvest, because there's 18 used and new copies available starting at $99.97 each. A new copy will cost you $193. So thanks a lot, Amazon. That's they don't want this stuff getting out. The gatekeepers apparently, Mitchell, are happy to allow this kind of stuff to continue to go on in China, which is why we don't hear a thing about it.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's why thank God for the SGT report. Thank God for JB Wells. Thank God for Hagman and Hagman, because I tell you, and I still need to get on Hagman and Hagman. I went on JB Wells, but I haven't been able to get on Hagman. I would love to get on Hagman with your support, or other people. If there's any people out there listening to SGT, please pass this on. Please share. I would love to come on, because the time is of the essence. And Sean, feel free to reach out to Ethan Gutman and to David Kilgore and Mattis. They'd love to come on your show and share a true account. And Enver Totti, I can give you the numbers, their WhatsApp numbers. They'd love to come on your show and share. But until then, there's another website just to know about what Falun Gong is and why the persecution against this innocent practice came about. It's called faluninfo.net, faluninfo.net. And you can learn more about there. But what we do in life echoes in eternity. And what is a man who cannot make the world a better place? And it's so important now in this time to stand on the right side of destiny. And I feel very sorry for those people who are still, with criminal intent, hiding the truth, deceiving the people, and manipulating people from what is truth, and most seriously trying to shut you down, Sean. I saw that. I remember when SGT was shut down and banned and demonetized. I can tell you. You can tell me stories about this, but I sit back and I think, you know what? They've been doing that for 20 years, but they will not succeed, and we will get the truth out no matter what.
Yeah, amen. All right. Well, we all stand together, and at the end of the day, truth outs. So we'll continue to speak truth. And Mitchell, I really appreciate you and your voice. And do send me the contact information for those authors and those other truth tellers in the space. I would love to speak with them. Our guest has been Mitchell Gerber from StopOrganHarvesting.org. Mitchell, thank you so much for your time and for your voice.
Thank you, Sean. God bless you, and thank you, everybody. Have a great night.
All right. God bless. Guys, it's like I said earlier on, honestly, if you've never seen those movies, the Hostel series of movies, they're terrible movies. They're despicable movies. But what is depicted in those movies is going on in this world as we speak. And I know it's hard to believe, but you've just heard a sliver of it from Mitchell Gerber. My thanks to Mitchell and everybody who is speaking truth about the horrors and the modern day genocide going on in China. Guys, for real news, 24/7, the antidote to corporate propaganda, please visit us at sgtreport.com. Use Start Page. Don't use Google. Google will not give you the search results you're looking for anymore. It's a crooked tool of the deep state. That's what Google has become. Same with the second largest search engine in the world, YouTube. It's a crooked search engine. So use Start Page and visit us daily at sgtreport.com for real news, the antidote to corporate propaganda. Thanks for listening, guys. God bless. Bye-bye.
I'm here to tell you that socialism leads to desperation. It leads to indignities. It leads to hunger, and it leads to death.